The Senate will come back to order. The Senate will come back to order. All senators, please make your way either to the chamber or close to the chamber. We're going to start to take up business here momentarily. The Senate is back in order.
Hear ye, hear ye. All senators report to the chamber. Remain your social distancing and get your tush in the chamber. We get started. Remember, Senators, early is on time and on time is late. I don't know what to tell you, Bill. Oh, man. 19. We got 19. Freddie Sims did not leave the chamber. What we got? Okay. 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 Recognize the senator from the 53rd to make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to pull House Bill 1094 off the table.
Mr. Secretary, please read the bill.
House Bill 1094 by Representative Gaines of the 117th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 20 of Title 5 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions regarding personnel administration so as to provide for paid parental leave for state employees and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor recommends this bill be passed by substitute. Senator Jones of the 25th District Chair. The Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor offers the following substitute to House Bill 1094, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 45-7-4 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to annual salaries of certain employees and cost of living adjustments so as to revise the compensation of the Lieutenant Governor, to revise the compensation of the members of the General Assembly, to provide for related matters, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
The senator from the 53rd has moved that House Bill 1094 be removed from the table. Is there objection? Hearing none. The bill is removed from the table. Recognize senator from the 53rd.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here with you on this wonderful day here in the Senate chambers. I bring to you House Bill 094 that is not the same bill that it once was. During our budget process, as you know, we were looking at reducing the budget by 14%. Well, because of our great governor and the revenue estimate, we didn't have to lower it as much. So we have lowered the estimate or the cut to around 11%. Some higher, some lower, but the average around 11%. So I thought we need to do our job in helping with the budget. That could save some jobs or time on some jobs with our administrative staff around the Capitol. So this suggests that we lower our salary by 11%. And in our $17,350 a year job, and let me say that again, most people think that we might get a bigger salary because they believe we may be in Washington, but we're not. We're here in Atlanta, Georgia, as your state senator, and glad and proud to be that. But our salary here is only $17,350 a year. And once it was less furlough days at one time, but we're going to cut it 11%, which is not a big cut, but it is making a statement that we're all in this together, to work together, to suffer together, to sacrifice together, to make our salaries the same as the cut. So, Mr. President, this bill, all it does is cut our salary for a complete year, unless things change. If we come into a special session to improve the budget, which has happened before in my career here, we may change this too, but currently it is 11%. And let me talk about Senate Bill 81. That was representatives from the 37th, I think. She and several Republicans and Democrats looked at raising our salary, but actually we were just talking about it. We wanted to present a bill to get a discussion. We did, and From that bill, we had a commission created to see what our salary should be. Alabama raised theirs to $40,000. Still, we were at $17,350, and we can never pass us a increase. We'd have to pass it for the next election to pass. But today, we're going to stand with our employees. We're going to stand with our cut and cut our salaries 11%. Mr. President, I would be happy to answer any questions from this esteemed body if they have any questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the chairman yield?
Chairman, I do for you.
Isn't it true that our hard-working admins that do so much for us are going to have fewer furlough days because we are putting off our salary? We're going to
Thank you. You're a wise chairman, and that's exactly right. Our sacrifice will be for our staff to remain uncut as much.
we yield for a further.
I would love to yield with you.
So it's also true that this is much more than a symbolic gesture. This is actually going to make sure that people are getting back to work and working more during this.
And thank you for putting words in my mouth, which should be there, and you're absolutely correct. And this will start our fiscal year and end our fiscal year unless somewhere down the road things changes.
You continue to yield.
I will yield for this body until the end of
Chair
time.
recognizes the senator from the 23rd.
Will the chairman yield?
I will, sir.
Now, isn't it true that Georgia's General Assembly is one of the tightest run legislatures in the country?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that. It is actually the lowest per capita in the United States of America. We run more efficient than any other state legislature in the whole nation of our great country.
You have no more questions.
Thank you. I appreciate your vote.
Your brevity is appreciated. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 1094? Chair sees none. The question's on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? We got one coming in the hall. Have all senators voted? All right, we got a thumbs up from the hallway. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 43, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. For what purpose does the majority whip rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 45th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 45th is excused. For what purpose does the senator from the 25th rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent that the rules be suspended to allow the reading of the committee report.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read the committee report? Is there objection? Chair hears none. Mr. Secretary, please read the committee report.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 716 do pass. House Bill 893 do pass. House Bill 1070 do pass by substitute. House Bill 1090 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Jones of the 25th District, Chair. Mr. President, that completes the order.
The committee report has been read. Mr. Secretary, can you please read for the second time?
House Bill 1090 by Representative Silcox of the 52nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 34 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding labor and industrial relations so as to revise provisions regarding employers' obligation to provide break time for an employee to express breast milk and for other purposes. House Bill 1070 by Representative Gaines of the 117th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 3 of Title 44 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to condominiums so as to provide new insurance policy disclosure requirements for condominium associations and unit owners in the event of a potential or actual claim filed against such policies and for other purposes. House Bill 893 by Representative Gamble of the 15th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 33-1-17 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Special Insurance Fraud Fund so as to reduce the frequency of assessments and for other purposes. House Bill 716 by Representative Blackman of the 146th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 33-24-59.23 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to carrier issuing health benefit plans to pay insurance agents commissions and regulation authority so as to provide that carriers issuing health plans in the state through an agent shall file proposed commission rates with the department and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 18th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask unanimous consent that the rules be suspended to allow for first reading and reference of a Senate resolution.
Is there objection? The chair hears none. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 1024 by Senator Kennedy of the 18th and others, a resolution creating the Senate COAM Study Committee and for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 1025 by Representative Ginn of the 47th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Study Committee on Georgia Entrepreneur Empowerment and for other purposes.
Rules.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the Chair recognizes the senator from the 24th.
Mr. President, I ask that House Bill 1093 be taken off the table.
Senator from the 24th has moved that House Bill 1093 be taken from the table. Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 1093 by Representative Meeks of the 178th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 8 of Title 2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to agricultural commodity commissions generally, so as to provide for an agricultural commodity commission for wine and grapes and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs recommends this bill to pass by substitute, submitted by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th District Chair. The Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 1093, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 8 of Title 2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to agricultural commodity commissions generally, so as to provide for an agricultural commodity commission for wine and grapes and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Senator from the 24th has moved that House Bill 1093 be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and House Bill 1093 is removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 24th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to bring this bill to you because I don't want you to hear it through the grapevine. All this bill does is makes a Ag Commodities Commission for the wine and grapes farmers in the great state of Georgia. Also, it makes it to where it'll be a 5-person committee, and this way the great people, the great state of Georgia can have a good quality glass of wine at dinner every night. I ask you for your vote green on this bill, and no question, Mr. President, I yield the will.
You have no questions. I could listen to the senator say the word farmer all day long. Maybe trying to get some of that wine. Any other senators wish to speak for or against House Bill 1093? Chair sees none. The question on the adoption of the committee substitute, is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? The distinguished rules chairman is, there he goes. All right, Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, please read the caption of House Bill 1003. Oh, Chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd. I'll get the hang of this in a minute.
Mr. President, I move for unanimous consent to remove House Bill 1003 from the table.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 1003 by Representative Burns, the 159th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-6-2 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the number of judges of superior courts so as to provide for an additional judge of the superior courts of the Ogeechee Judicial Circuit and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends this bill to be passed by substitute. Senator Stone, the 23rd District Chair. The Senate Judiciary Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 1003, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5A of Title 15, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to statewide business court, so as to remove the administrative attachment of the Georgia Statewide Business Court from the Court of Appeals and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Senator from the 23rd has asked for unanimous consent for House Bill 1003 to be removed from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is taken off the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd to present House Bill 1003.
All this bill does, senators, is to remove the newly created business court from the administrative attachment to the Georgia Court of Appeals. It will be a standalone unit for budget purposes. It will contract for services with the administrative office of the courts. Happy to answer questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the chairman yield?
Yes.
Seeing as this would be making this court a standalone court, is there a fiscal impact?
No,
How is that, sir?
because it will not add to personnel. It will have all of its administrative functions contracted with the AOC, as all the other courts do. it would have had that done through the Court of Appeals if it was not detached.
Okay, so no fiscal impact.
No fiscal impact, no additional employees, nothing.
Thank you, sir.
You have no more questions.
Urge support for 1003.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 1003? Chair sees none. The questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? I've got thumbs up from the hallway. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, Chair recognizes the senator from the 18th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that House Bill 337 be removed from the table.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 337 by Representative Blackman of the 146th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to motor vehicles and traffic so as to provide for and regulate peer-to-peer vehicle sharing, to provide for definitions, provide for requirements for a peer-to-peer vehicle sharing program, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Senator Cowser to the 46th District Chair. The Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities offers the following substitute to House Bill 337 to amend Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to motor vehicles and traffic so as to provide for peer-to-peer car sharing, to provide for definitions, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Senator from the 18th has asked for unanimous consent that House Bill 337 be taken from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 18th to present the measure.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I present to you House Bill 337. The last time you're going to hear from me today, that's going to make all of us happy. What I've got, yeah, thank you for that. Not that good, come on. The House Bill 337 is a peer-to-peer vehicle sharing and is distinct from the rental of daily or rental vehicles, not to be confused with what we think of as rental cars. The platform connects owners with drivers for the purpose of sharing vehicles. The sharing period, the platform agreement, the termination time are defined such that there are clear insurance coverage requirements. That's really what drives this bill, is making sure that we've got proper and appropriate insurance coverage in these peer-to-peer connectivity when you're dealing with cars. Peer-to-peer vehicle sharing platforms confirm the identity of the person with whom the vehicle is shared, and then it also has a sharing platform check for vehicle recalls prior to the vehicle being registered or made available for sharing. The insurance basically is set up so that it ensures that there is liability and coverage for the owner and the driver at all times during the sharing period. The platform assumes liability for the owner for bodily injury, property damage, and uninsured motorists. The platform is also liable when it is providing coverage in whole or in part, and there's a dispute about who is in control of the vehicle. The owner and the peer-to-peer platform are exempt from vicarious liability on the basis of vehicle ownership. The bill has structure for the notification of and implications of liens, and also provides that the platform maintains records on the identity of the driver, the information that's shared, and that the information is provided to insured individuals, their attorneys, and their estate representatives. These platforms must make consumer protection disclosures that are related to the insurance. I'm happy to tell you this aligns with the National Council on Insurance Legislators' model on car sharing. All industry players have agreed on this language, the insurance and the car share folks. And also, I'm pleased to report that the Insurance Commissioner's Office has also signed off on this and is supportive of the measure. With that, Mr. President, I'll be happy to answer any questions or yield the well.
The chair recognizes the fiscally responsible senator from the 48th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. You anticipated my question, so does the chairman yield?
To a former federal prosecutor who has a question about fiscal impact, I certainly do.
Yes, sir. So if you could answer Mr. President's question, is there a fiscal impact?
No impact.
And I did have one question. Why is this needed? I'm unclear as to why we actually need this setup.
Why do we need this? Sure, good question. We need this because of this model of borrowing cars is developed. This market, if you will, didn't exist years ago, just like Airbnb didn't exist years ago. And as an attorney senator, you certainly appreciate that insurance contracts are written in ways that assume certain baselines of information with regard to owner, authorized drivers, permissive drivers, that sort of thing. Peer-to-peer is obviously outside of that traditional model that we get insurance for. And this is to make sure that the drivers, the public, owners of the cars, that we've got an insurance model that covers all of those that otherwise would not be. And I appreciate that question. I should have been more clear on that. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
Yeah, I think so, from my friend from the 31st.
I was just interested. I know yesterday we were talking about sharing cars, and today you got a bill on it. Who sets the rate on these cars?
Let's see. I think the rate on that, Senator, is probably set by the parties.
You further yield?
Sure.
So you're okay with the parties setting the rate on cars, but not on power poles?
Well, the difference, Senator, is these cars don't carry broadband. They're not trying to get internet out to the rural areas and to help the children of our state. This is just folks borrowing a car. If it did, I might feel differently.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate the question.
You have no more questions, Senator.
Thank you. I'll yield the well.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 337? Chair hears none. Sees none. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All the questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? We got one coming in. We got a thumbs up. Is that a thumbs up or a number one? My thumbs up. Double thumbs up. One more. Okay. One more. Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 41, the nays are 7. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion by unanimous consent to move House Bill 463 off the table.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 463 by Representative Montahan of the 17th, the bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to motor vehicles and traffic so as to provide for the issuance of a Class C driver's license to operators of certain three-wheeled motor vehicles and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends this bill do pass by substitute. Senator Albers of the 56th District Chair. The Senate Committee on Public Safety offers the following amendment to House Bill 463, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 11 of Title 19 and Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to Child Support Recovery Act and motor vehicles and traffic, respectively, so as to provide for notice of suspension for a driver's license or privilege to operate a motor vehicle for noncompliance with a child support order or failure to respond to a citation to be sent via certified mail or certificate of mailing and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Senator from the 56 has asked for unanimous consent for House Bill 463 to be taken from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and House Bill 463 is removed from the table. Chair recognizes the senator from the 56 to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the annual bill we do for driver services. After we were suspended due to COVID, a few of those bills were combined together. This bill does simply three things. First, rather than sending the notice of suspension via certified mail, we're going to do it a certificate of mailing, which simply means that we know that they've got it and they had to sign to receive that letter. This savings alone will be close to $1 million for driver services, where we can use those dollars in a tight budget time. It's also a better way for us to do business. The second is reciprocity. The Department of Driver Services works with other nations, whether we have folks for economic development or tourism purposes, and they can go into contracts and talks in order to share our information, or allow those drivers to come here and be able to drive safely, and we can do the same when we visit them. And last, but certainly not least, many of us are now using things such as electronic insurance cards. This will allow driver services to begin the process of doing the same with our driver's license. You'll still have to get a physical driver's license by the Real ID Act, but in addition to that driver's license, you could also get an electronic driver's license in the future. If there are any questions, Mr. President, I will yield.
You have questions. Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, this seems like the same provision that the department tries to slide by us every year, where they can now suspend your license by regular mail instead of proving that you're notified of it by certified mail.
Thank you for your question, Senator. The certificate of mailing still says that they've absolutely sent it to you, as opposed to certified mail. About half of those come back today, so we're really not getting a very good return on investment as a state for doing that.
Well, if half of them come back, that means half the people are never even receiving the notification, because they may have moved from when they first got their driver's license issued. So they're being notified of suspension that the department knows half of them are not even receiving these notifications. And proof of mailing doesn't prove receipt by the person who is losing their privilege to drive and may be stopped and arrested for driving on a suspended license, not even knowing their license is suspended.
Well, in most cases, Senator, people's licenses are suspended because they themselves did not renew them. And everybody has a driver's license with an expiration date on it. And there's personal responsibility for each one of us to know when it's suspended. And if someone was in something else having to do with child support, et cetera, then they would be involved with the courts already knowing those things had happened. If you were to send someone a notice via mail and it came back, it still wouldn't change anything from the driver's services perspective, because you had not updated your address, which is ultimately the responsibility of the citizen with a driver's license.
Will you yield for one further question?
I'd be happy
Aren't there
to.
approximately 17 ways you can have your license suspended, anywhere from truancy in school to having your automobile insurance expire on you to other traffic violations, et cetera?
I'm sure the senator knows of which he speaks.
Thank you.
Do you continue to yield? Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st for a question.
Senator Gill.
Certainly.
Is there any law about how long after you move in the state of Georgia that you've got to notify DDS about a change of address?
That'd be 30 days, Senator.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the chairman yield?
For a fiscal question from my friend, yes.
Thank you, sir. I'm following up on a little bit about what the senator of the 46 was mentioning, which is my concern is, as a practicing attorney, we use certified mail so that in a court of law we can say somebody received something or didn't receive something. So it seems to me that you're lowering this standard, yet you're going to hold people to say they received something that they may not have received. So I'm confused how this helps us.
Sure, Senator, are you familiar with a certificate of mailing versus certified mail?
Yes.
Okay, so in that case, we're still going to have something showing that we mailed it to that person. But again, there has to be personal responsibility as well, and I'm glad that you brought this up, because the senator from the 7th calmly reminded me that through the question of the senator from the 46th, that a lot of that suspension has stopped. In fact, this body made some of those changes because we were very concerned that folks would still have the ability to drive so they could go to work or get to court or to be with their children and do the things we thought were most important, because we know that in most cases suspending a license would not necessarily help them in that process.
You further yield, sir?
Certainly.
I apologize, though, but you said 50% of the people don't return these, so we have no knowledge as to whether they received it. And having dealt with some of the communities who have transient addresses, this seems to be a problem.
Well, Senator, I don't believe it's a problem, because today you could get a certified piece of mail to your home and you could refuse to sign it and it would go back, right?
That's true.
So that happens, but even if it came back, I still don't know anything else about you or your address. There's nothing else as driver services I could do, right? I only have the address that's on file, so we're not going to have driver services become detectives to try and figure out where you are, because ultimately, again, it's our personal responsibility to keep our address updated on our driver's licenses.
Thank you, sir.
Do you continue to yield?
Certainly.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Always for the rules, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Isn't it true that if half of the $1 million worth of mail is sent out, that's 500,000 who has never responded? They either they refused to sign for it, or they have moved and their part's unknown or place unknown. They don't know where they are. Isn't it true that we're trying to save money during this time of our session?
Well, Senator, you are spot on. We are trying to save money for this state so we can fund the things we hold most important.
But isn't it true that you have a way to at least notify the person that has a license problem, or to let the department know that they have received their license or whatever information they're trying to get to them?
Senator, you're absolutely right. Everyone will be fully notified.
Well, let me commend you on this excellent bill that I intend to vote yes for. As Senator Ross Tullinson would say, it's red or green. Thank you.
On that, Mr. President, I think I'll yield the well.
You have no more questions. Any other senators wish to speak for or against House Bill 463? The chair sees none. The question's on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question's on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? We've got a thumbs up from the hallway. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 34, the nays are 15. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. For what purpose does the senator from the 17th rise?
Mr. President, I give notice at the appropriate time. I'll move forward. I'll move for the Senate to reconsider its action in passing House Bill 1170. This was a local bill that I worked on with a senator from the 43rd that may need another look tomorrow.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 1170, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to provide for a change in the compensation of the Sheriff, Tax Commissioner, Judge of Probate Court, Clerk of Superior Court, and Chairman of the Board of Commissioners of Newton County, and for other purposes.
Senator, the appropriate time would be tomorrow morning. Thank you. Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that ask unanimous consent to remove House Bill 998 from the table. I will get that right.
Easy for you to say.
I apologize.
Easy for you to say. Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 998 by Representative Rose of the 120th and others. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 27 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to game and fish so as to change the effective date of rules and regulations promulgated by the Board of Natural Resources, to revise the implied consent warning for hunting under the influence, to amend Code Section 52-7-12.5 of the OCGA relating to ordering drug, alcohol, or other substance tests and implied consent notice relative to operation of watercraft so as to revise the implied consent warning and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and the Environment recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Senator Harper of the 7th District Chair of the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Environment offers the following substitute to House Bill 998, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 27 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to game and fish so as to change the effective date of rules and regulations promulgated by the Board of Natural Resources, to revise the implied consent warning for hunting under the influence, to amend Code Section 52-7-12.5 of OCGA, and for other purposes. Amendment number 1 by Senator Harper of the 7th and others, to amend the substitute to House Bill 998 by replacing lines 4 through 6 with the following: Article 1 of Chapter 7 of Title 52, the OCGA relating to registration, operation, and sale of watercraft generally, so as to correct erroneous terminology and for other purposes. Amendment 2 by Senator Miller of the 49th and others offers the following amendment: amend the substitute to House Bill 998 by inserting, quote, Part 3 of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Lake Lanier Islands Development Authority so as to extend the term of the Lake Lanier Islands Development Authority to amend, quote, after, quote, to amend, close quote, on line 1 and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Senator from the 7th has asked for unanimous consent that House Bill 998 be taken from the table. Is there objection? There is objection. It's a non-debatable. All those in favor of taking HB 998 off the table will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? There's a couple senators sitting at your seats who haven't voted yet. All senators voted. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion to take from the table, the yeas are 32, the nays are 16, and House Bill 998 is taken from the table. Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, House Bill 998 is the annual, partially the annual DNR update bill. The first thing that it does is it updates the rules and regs related to the Department of Natural Resources like we do every year. The second thing that it does is, if you remember last year, we passed a bill dealing with the DUI code and implied consent. This bill addresses the issue with implied consent per the Supreme Court case in the HUI and BUI sections of our code. That was not addressed last year. The third thing that it does is names the shoal bass as the official riverine sport fish of our state. It also extends the time in which we can allow air guns to be used in our state for hunting purposes. And this extension is only good for another 5 years to make sure that the federal government takes action in regards to allowing Pittman Robinson funds to be able to use for that. That's the reason for the sunset. There was a 1-year sunset that expires this year, and so far we are not aware of any issues. That was the purpose of the 1 year, and we see it as a good measure moving forward. The last thing that it does is it removes a provision in the law that requires DNR to report every year to the General Assembly the number of deer killed. This will, because of technology and all the information that's already out there, we just saw this as something that was not needed now, and the fact that they prepare a report on all of that already. That's what the underlying substitute does that come out of natural resources. I'm going to speak to amendment number 1 really quick. In committee, we had a pretty lengthy conversation about how does the HUI-BUI code line up in regards to the DUI code, and what is the measure when it comes to alcohol concentration. In the DUI code is specific to what that is. All we did with Amendment 1 is we pulled that in out of the DUI code. We pulled that language into the HUI and BUI code to make it clear that that's what we're talking about when we're talking about 0.08 grams. Now we know it's 0.08 grams of what. That's what Amendment number 1 does. Would appreciate your support on that. And Amendment number 2 is by the senator from the 49th. I will let him speak to that, but I support it as well. If there are no questions, Mr. President, I yield the will.
You have questions. Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th for a question. He's got a smile on his face.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
I will yield to my friend.
Senator, there were some questions over here. If you could read line 101 in its entirety for us, that would be helpful.
101.
Specifically the italicized parts.
Line 101. The shoal bass is designated as the official Georgia State riverine sport fish.
Will the senator yield?
I will yield to my good friend.
Senator, I believe in parentheses, there is more detail there. Could you read the rest of that for us in parentheses?
I will defer to the good knowledge of my fellow colleagues in this chamber on how to say that particular word, because I will butcher it.
Thanks, Senator.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st.
Mr. Chairman, if there's something in this bill that people can't pronounce, maybe we need to take that section out.
Do you continue to yield?
I will yield for one more
Chair
question.
recognizes the minority leader for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield?
I will yield to the minority leader.
Thank you. Is it not true that some of the concerns some people had was the air gun, you don't need a background check to get the air gun? Is that correct?
Under law, you have never had to have a background check to get an air gun.
That's true. Is it not further true the air gun can bring down a large animal like a deer?
It is true that that is possible, yes, sir.
But is it not true that for a normal firearm with combustible shell or you would need a carry permit.
You
mean, you
don't,
would need
you
a
don't necessarily have to have a
background check.
carry permit.
Yeah, background check.
But yes, you would have to go through some sort of background check, unless you have a weapons carry license in Georgia, in which case, you do not, you just have to present that at the time of sale.
And is it further true, Senator, that under some conditions, certainly if you have that or you are hunting, you may not need a carry permit, but in some conditions, you might need a carry permit to go around with a rifle. Is that not true?
I would have to look at that. I don't believe the carry permit, it actually, is subject to the rifle. I believe those are not, part of the carry law. Under our Georgia law, it only is specific, I believe, to pistols. I'd have to go back and look at that and verify that, but I believe.
Is it not true, Senator, that, you know.
Or handguns, I should have said.
That
yeah.
I believe that you do need a carry permit to go in the public streets with a rifle as well as a handgun?
I would defer to your research on that, but I would have to research that myself, as I don't believe that the carry permit is addressed to long rifles, as they're called in the code. I believe it's only specific to pistols and revolvers and handguns.
Thank you. But it is true, regardless of which is the proper, correct thing, you would not need a carry permit for the air gun under either circumstance.
No, you would not. No, sir. And
You
that
have-
is an issue that really needs to be addressed at the federal level, not necessarily on the state level, and you've never had to have a carry permit for this under the law. With that, Mr. President, I yield the will.
Senator has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the pro tem to speak to amendment number 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank the senator from the 7th for allowing us to ride along on this, on his bill. This, there's a state lease from the federal government on Lake Lanier Islands, and all this amendment does is line up the lease from the Lake Lanier Islands, from the federal government to the Lake Lanier Islands Authority. The bond underwriters have asked for this over the years, and we've had to do the same sort of thing in Jekyll Island a few years ago. And this lease was written about 15 years ago, so I don't know why they didn't line up. But all this is going to do is correct that circumstance. If there are no questions, Mr. President, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions. Just had one pop up late.
I ask for your favorable consent.
You had a question that popped up late if you want it. Figured you did. You're not shy. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th for a question.
Mr. Pro Tem, do I read the amendment correctly that the amendment abolishes all that is in section 2 and in section 3, 4, and 3 and 4?
It moved it, so it may had to abolish that to move it down, but the stuff's not gone completely. It's just moved to a different section.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
Thanks, sir.
You have no more questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 998 or Amendment 1 or Amendment 2? The chair sees none. For what purpose does the senator from the 9th rise?
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator for the 10th for business outside the Capitol.
Without exception, the senator from the 10th is excused. All right, we're going to take up amendment number 1. The question's on adoption of amendment number 1. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and amendment number 1 is adopted. We'll now take up amendment number 2. The question is on adoption of amendment number 2. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and amendment number 2 is adopted. The question is on the passage of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Chair hears none. The committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Yes, ma'am. Take your time. Have all senators voted? We got a thumbs up in the hall. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. Sorry. Too late. Sorry. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 37, the nays are 10. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, Chair recognizes the senator from the 24th.
Mr. President, I ask that House Bill 1008 be removed from the table.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 1008 by Representative Campbell of the 171st and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 8-2-111 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to definitions relative to factory-built buildings and dwelling units so as to revise the definition of residential industrial building to provide for related matters and further purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Economic Development and Tourism recommends this bill do pass. Senator Ginn of the 47th District Chair. Thank you.
The senator from the 24th has asked for unanimous consent that House Bill 1008 be taken from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is taken from the table. Chair recognizes the senator from the 24th to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a very simple bill. All it does is change shall to may, and it makes the residential industrialized buildings have the option to have a steel frame for the great people, the great state of Georgia for homes. I ask you for your vote green on this bill, and let's go home.
Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 1008? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 46th rise?
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to take House Bill 879 from the table.
I called on you too quickly. I'll call on you in one second when I call this vote. Sorry. Have all senators voted? We got some coming in still. Got a thumbs up. Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please. Oh, we got one more coming. Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 45, the nays are 5. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to remove House Bill 879 from the table.
Ms. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 879 by Representative Harrell of the 106th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 3 of Title 3 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to provisions regarding the regulation of alcoholic beverages generally, so as to provide for the legislative intent of the General Assembly to exercise strict regulatory control over the three-tier system and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules recommends this bill do pass by substitute. Senator Mullis of the 53rd District, Chair. The Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 879, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 3 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to alcoholic beverages so as to provide for and change certain regulations as to the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages, to provide for the Department of Revenue to develop and implement a statewide centralized application process for retailers, for initial applications and renewals for licenses and permits and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator Ligon of the 3rd offers amendment number 1 to the Senate Committee on Rules substitute to House Bill 879 by replacing lines 254 through 261 with the following. 7, packaged good retailer means a person licensed under this title as a retailer to sell alcoholic beverages in unbroken packages for consumption off premises, that is not, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 46th has asked for unanimous consent that House Bill 879 be taken from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none and it's taken off the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 46th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this was generally referred to as the home delivery bill, the alcohol home delivery bill. It is to allow really all retailers of alcohol to make home deliveries. There's some pretty strict requirements. Certainly anything delivered to a home, they have to ask for a photo ID proving you're 21 years of age. It must be signed for. The alcohol must come from the inventory of the retail establishments that's selling it, and that establishment, whichever type it might be, whether a convenience store, grocery store, liquor store, has to be licensed within that jurisdiction and follow the rules and regulations of whatever jurisdiction the delivery is being made in. That would include the restrictions on Sunday sales of alcohol. There is a provision that gives parity to stores in communities where they allow the sale of alcohol by the drink at 11 a.m. under the Mimosa bill. It allows them to also have delivery up into that time period if there's a referendum by the community that allows it. There are numerous provisions on the individuals making the delivery. They have to have a background check, cannot have been convicted of DUI. They have to be 21 years old and able to serve that. All those provisions are what we call the home delivery of alcohol. Most of those are found there in Section 3 of this bill on page 7. There are two other bills that have been combined with this that have both passed the Senate in previous years with just some slight changes. The first one would be what is often referred to as the tastings bill. There was somewhat of an anomaly that if you were a store that sold beer and wine, you could have tastings on your premises. In Athens, I can go to the Kroger grocery store Saturday afternoons. They have tastings for craft beers or for wines. But if you were a package store that also sold distilled spirits, you were not able to have an on-premises tasting. This bill addresses that, and it's very specific. It's negotiated by the industry, really all of the players in the industry. Any establishment that sells alcohol on premises can have tastings up to 52 times per year, can't last more than 4 hours. They can't try more than 4 types of alcohol or brands, let's say. You could either have a tasting of distilled spirits or of wines or of beer, but only one of those types of alcohol and no more than 4 brands of it. Also very restrictive limitations on the amount you can serve in the tastings. No more than 8 ounces of beer or malt beverages, no more than 5 ounces of wine, and no more than 1.5 ounces of alcohol. Just for purposes of comparison, those amounts roughly would equal a .02 blood alcohol concentration. So it's very restrictive what you could serve so that you don't have to worry about anybody being impaired when they leave your premises. It must be sold from your inventory in the store. And the idea is if you're going in a store and you want to try a new craft beer, you could taste 2 or 3 and decide what to purchase. Same thing with wines or with liquors. It's to allow you to sample the wares of the store, but they limit it so that we're not going to set up shot houses where you can swing by your liquor store on the way home from work every day and, you know, get you 2 or 3 shots of liquor or whatever. So it's very restrictive to avoid any abuses there. There's another portion of the bill that deals with the proximity of a retail store to a college campus and allowing you to sell alcohol in a retail establishment near a campus. Our current law requires you to be at least 100 yards away from a church, at least 200 yards away from a school or college campus. This bill doesn't change that. It only allows a local community that has a college campus to reduce the distance requirement if that's done by a local referendum. So we're just going to let local communities determine what's the appropriate distance requirements from college campuses. No changes as to churches, as to grammar schools, middle schools, high schools, only dealing with college campuses. Savannah College of Art and Design is who brought this bill, and of course Savannah, as we know, with such powerful senators that they have and lobbyists here generally get their way on alcohol. So we're glad to let them, if they want to reduce the distance, they can do that. They have a facility that's a museum of some type that wants to sell alcohol that is actually very close to a college campus building. Under no circumstances are you allowed by local ordinance to extend or expand the distance, but you can restrict it. Final thing, it sets up for a statewide licensing facilitation if you're getting alcohol licenses to go through a statewide database. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll yield the well. Happy
You
to
have a
answer.
question. Chair recognizes the distinguished senator from the 13th. Senator from the 13th has a question.
I don't think you realized how distinguished he was yet, Mr. President.
What's Senator
You
Yield?
confused him with that.
Right, no. What's Senator Yield?
I'll be glad to.
My esteemed college next door to me wanted to make sure he could get delivery from Kroger. Is Kroger excluded or not?
They're not excluded.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. You know, during this COVID, a lot of people have been getting their groceries delivered, and they're like, hey, if we're not able to go out and get exposed, why not get your beer and wine as well?
Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th, who might have pushed your button.
Thank you. With the Senator Yield.
I'll be glad to.
Originally, I think the bill came over with delivery of beer and wine.
It did.
And it was fairly limited. It had to be from a restaurant or a retailer, not, I guess, Amazon from out of state.
This prevents interstate delivery of beer or wine, of alcohol.
And then I believe it was been amended in committee to add distilled spirits.
It was amended not in the Regulated Industries Committee, but in the Rules Committee. The President Pro Tem had an amendment to allow it to apply to retail package stores also.
And
so that encompasses
how's that,
alcohol.
how do you see that impacting local liquor stores, small mom and pop type liquor stores?
Well, it'll allow them to compete with the grocery stores and other wine stores that are allowed to deliver under this. I understand a lot of the mom and pop ones didn't want to do this. And of course, nothing in this bill requires them to deliver. It just gives them the ability to.
I see in the Atlanta paper this big full page ads for a company, I think it's called Total Wine maybe, I don't know, but anyway. So this would allow a large statewide company to deliver into my district.
No. You have to be licensed within the district to make the home delivery, and it has to be made within that district. So yeah, you're not going to be shipping wine from Atlanta down to Perry.
Okay. Or distilled spirits.
That's correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Senator, do you continue to yield?
Be glad to.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th. State your inquiry.
Mr. President, do we need to remind the senator from the 13th of Senate Rule 8-1.5 that says no senator shall refer in debate to any private conversations had with any other senators?
Thank you for that. 13th is not recognized. Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator. I just need an explanation on where it's talking about the, where is it? I was about to, we were on page 11, and it's talking about the air delivery. Air carrier, I think it's said something of that sort. Electronic means, but it also mentions something about air.
Air carriers,
Air
I think,
carriers,
to make
right.
sure, I don't think this is aimed at letting people fly wine in or beer in from out of state.
So this is going to be something for the retailers then?
It is. You have to be a licensed retailer of whatever type to be able to make the home deliveries. So you're not gonna have to worry about regional centers shipping it into your territory or interstate transportation of
They'll just
lines.
fly it in.
The three-tier system, as you know, is very rigid, and it's a system that's complicated, and so all the manufacturers have agreed that they will not be making direct deliveries, home deliveries under this provision. Same thing with the wholesalers, just the retailers we're talking about here, and they have to be licensed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Senator, at this late hour, do you continue to yield?
Well, I would like to remind the body this is not my first bill in the well if this is becoming hazy, but
From looking at this board, it appears as though it is.
Take one more question in the.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Gill.
Absolutely, to my rules, Chairman.
Well, this is an important question. So this will allow Phil's Primetime Pizza in Chickamauga, Georgia, to deliver wine or beer when they deliver their pizza, their customer wants it.
If they have a retail alcohol license, they'll be able to take care of you, Mr. Chairman.
They do. Now, they maybe have to have a new process through the local government. Is that correct? For a license to deliver?
That was only if we were talking about, oh, yes, they could, if they're allowed by local ordinance, right.
Well, that's why I support this for Phil's Primetime Pizza. Thank you.
I hope it passes for your benefit.
The senator has yielded the well.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 3rd to speak to amendment number 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment number 1 simply prohibits the makers of distilled spirits from delivering alcohol to the homes. And this was opposed by as the senator from the 46th mentioned, or the amendment is supported by the small retailers because they realize that there's an issue. And in a recent article of Food and Wine magazine, they recognize that many times minors are accepting these deliveries, and especially when delivery apps are used, because there's not proper verification of the identity. The drivers are not following the proper procedure. I know the bill states a procedure, but it's still not being followed. It's an issue, and I think that we should honor what the Georgia Liquor Association says and is asking for and take this out. Also, you need to know that the Georgia Baptist Association would support this amendment as well. So I'd be glad to ask any questions. If not, I'll yield the will.
The chair recognizes the minority leader for a question.
Senator Yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, is it not true that, 25 years ago, just any bill was called a liquor bill and you had trouble passing it? And we've changed a lot over the years with Sunday liquor sales, et cetera. Is that not true?
That's true. Yes, sir.
Is it further not true that all the industries, whether they're retailers, distributors, liquor stores, grocery stores, when they're dealing with liquor issues, they know what's going on? Most of them have representatives here at the Capitol. Is that not true?
That's right.
Is it not also true that this committee that handles this legislation has people who have been experienced years after years with liquor issues and are used to dealing with it. Is that not true?
Yeah, yes, sir. A lot of the members on the committee are familiar with liquor issues. Yes, sir.
I take that very personal and agree. Senator, further yield.
Yes, sir.
Is it not true also that the committee that handled this legislation normally and handled this bill, in fact, no one presented the committee, the amendment to include your retail package stores in that committee? Is that
Right.
true?
Yes.
Is it not further true that the lobbyists for the Retail Package Association came to that committee and said, I'm just here to let you all know that your mom and pop liquor stores, the Retail Liquor Store Association, does not want to be included?
That's correct.
And one member, is it not further true, one member actually asked them, won't it help your sales? Don't you want to increase your sales? This doesn't make sense. And that representative stated that they had concerns from the fact that the cost of putting together websites or whatever, but that their association had voted and he was totally committed for his members not to put liquor stores in the bill. Is that not true?
And I think that they were concerned about the safety issues that was raised in Food and Wine magazine as well.
Thank you. And further true that California and other states have had many problems with minors and other getting into liquor issues with these deliveries, and the Retail Liquor Store Association, wanted to be out because of that concern in part.
That is correct, according to the reports that I've seen.
Is it not further true that, right now we have a very controlled three-tier system, and including in our retail package stores, a two-store limitation? But someday you might see every Costco and every 7-Eleven with a liquor store license delivering this homes, and the regulation might even be more immense and problematic than it is today. Is that not true?
Yes, sir.
Is it not further true that the session is almost over?
I sure hope so.
Is it not further true that Kroger and Publix that would like to be able to deliver wine and beer and the other groups do have some risk if this is not fixed back with your amendment,
That's
which
right.
I compliment you on, that it may run in troubles the House since they didn't get that amendment on over there? Is that
That's
not
right.
true?
That's right.
So you would have asked everybody to vote for your amendment?
I'm asking for favorable consideration of the amendment.
It's a good amendment. Thank you, Senator.
Does the senator continue to yield?
Yes, sir, I'll yield.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 35th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
Yes, ma'am.
It is true that my husband and I owned a liquor store for 29 years before he was ill, and didn't drink, neither one of us.
Yes, ma'am.
But every year this came up, and the mom and pop liquor stores did not want this. Is it true that this is the same bill that the Underage Drinking Association and Mothers Against Drunk Driving
Oppose. That's right.
And isn't it also true that the teenagers and college students were taking their mother and father's credit card and ordering this, and so when this delivered, nobody knows who, they just pick it up at the door and nobody has to sign for it.
And with the apps, it was a little bit easier, and the problem is that sometimes a lot of the delivery drivers are not really verifying those IDs.
And one last thing, isn't it true though that since we're against drinking and driving, those of us who are against it, we'd rather have it delivered to your home where you're not gonna go out and get in a car and drive.
I guess.
Thank you.
The senator knows what she's
Thank you for your amendment.
Does the senator continue to yield?
I'll yield for one more question.
The chair recognizes the pro tem for a question.
Does the senator yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, I have to say, I just can't imagine that you're a regular reader of Food and Wine magazine.
Well, from time to time, I like to expand my reading. I like food.
There you go. Okay,
That's right.
like food. Okay, all right. I have to say also, isn't this, won't this bill keep, if the liquor's delivered, Won't it keep Baptist friends from seeing each other in the liquor store?
You won't have to worry anymore, Senator. Mr. President, with that, I'll yield. Oh, one more question?
Will the
Yes.
senator further yield?
Yeah, yes.
This may be, in fact, the senator's last time to the well.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Yes, sir.
And as we come to the end of this legislative session, you and others will come to the well for the last time.
That's right.
And I appreciate you coming to the well, but not on this bill. If you've got nothing to say it somewhere else.
Not certain I
Thanks,
understand the question in there.
That's right.
Thank you.
Senator
I yield the well.
has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure or the amendment? Chair recognizes the pro tem.
In all candor, I have to tell you, the senator from the 3rd is a great friend of mine, and he and I voted together on many occasions. This will not be one of them. I think this brings parity to other industries. As we go forward, we're going to see, just like we had a car loaning bill today, we've had Uber Eats, we'll have all kinds of app-related and delivery services. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the senator from the 18th told me he bought 2 weeks' worth of liquor 3 times during the COVID crisis. But the fact of the matter is that retailing and marketing is changing. And the senator from the 35th brings up a good point, whether we're talking about driving and drinking and driving, and we certainly do not want to encourage that. In fact, we want to give opportunities to prevent that. The senator from the 20th was asking questions regarding competition among stores, and each and every excise tax and sales tax that occurs in the purchase of these products stay in that district. So it's not a fact that you're buying it in one district, delivering it to another district. They stay there in that county or that city or that municipality, wherever it is. This is very tightly regulated. When the product, whether it's malt, whether it's wine, or whether it's liquor, when it's delivered, they have to have a verification of the individual signing for it. They have to have a driver's license or a government-issued ID card showing they're of age, 21. The deliverer of this product, the person driving the vehicle, can only deliver product from that particular store, as the senator from the 46 points out. He cannot have anything else in his automobile that is commingled at all, any other products, alcohol products of any kind. He has to undergo a background check that demonstrates that he has not had driving offenses or alcohol offenses prior to this employment. So I think that as we go forward, we'll see more and more bills, whether it's internet sales, whether it's online purchases, et cetera, and this is just another segment of that. One of the other questions was regarding big box retailers, or Amazon, for instance, was one of the questions, if I'm not mistaken. Amazon could not ship this. So, that is out of the question. It has to be shipped it has to be within the 3-tier system. And in the 3-tier system, the maximum number of stores you can own is 2, and you can't be shipping it from the distributor. I think the senator from the 3rd mentioned spirit manufacturers. We're talking about spirit retailers. I think he maybe misspoke there. We're talking about spirit retailers, not spirit manufacturers. But I think this is a good bill, and it is consistent with the changes we're seeing in retail. Ladies and gentlemen, the internet and online purchases are destroying hometown businesses, brick and mortar businesses. And COVID-19 put the final nail in a bunch of coffins regarding local retailers. Local retailers support the community. Local retailers, those are the people that buy an ad in your child's football program or your child's annual. Those are the individuals that pay the property tax. Those are the individuals that have small business. And small business is what America is about. It's not about Amazon. It's not about Google. It's not about the major retailers. It's not Amazon.com and HomeDepot.com. Go to your local hardware store and buy something. Go to your local folks that are paying property taxes in your community. That are living in your community. That are contributing to your community. So, Mr. President, if there are no questions, I would yield the will. But I think I have one.
You've got questions. The chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Certainly.
Well, looky here. I want to talk about today being a historic day. Would you agree? Senator, do you agree?
Yes, sir, I agree. It is a
historic day.
Historic moment and a historic day.
I would also say that it's pretty historic for the Georgia Baptist Association to team up with the Liquor Association and oppose your bill. Now, that's historic. Would you agree?
I would say that politics make strange bedfellows.
No comment on that. I would also say that for those Mothers Against Drunk Driving or other against DUI and that kind of stuff, which I oppose, my goodness, wouldn't you want this to be delivered to your home so you're not going anywhere if you're going to have a cordial?
Amen. Preach it, brother.
So, anyway, I support your bill and your amendment. Thank you.
Does the senator continue to yield?
Certainly.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a simple question, which
Certainly.
you may not know the answer to.
I'll make something up if I don't.
Okay, I know you will.
I'm in sales.
The gentleman knows of what he speaks.
Yes. I was thinking about, as you were talking, the cost of the equipment that the liquor stores are going to have to be able to find where, I know we are lucky and we have the phones and all that stuff, but to be able to say that this particular home or apartment or whatever they're delivering to is actually in their jurisdiction. That's what I was thinking about, the fact that they're going to have some kind of equipment, you know, that may be different from what they have now, and of course, who takes it can use the MapQuest or whatever to get there.
Senator, I possibly could have misspoken. Let me make sure I made myself clear. So if you live in Fulton County, for instance, and your closest liquor store is half a block away, but it's in DeKalb County, where you purchase that product is where that tax stays. So where you purchase that product is where that tax stays. They can deliver into an assigned area around your store, but the taxes are not transferred.
Okay.
They stay where you're purchased.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have no more questions.
Thank you. For your favorable consideration, and though we had a good time laughing and cutting up, really serious about this. It's a good piece of legislation. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to take up amendment number 1. The question is on adoption of amendment number 1 by the senator from the 3rd. Is there objection to adoption of the amendment? There is objection. All those in favor of amendment number 1 will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the pro tem rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State
President.
your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true a red vote is a vote for business within your community? No matter if you're a drinker or you're not a drinker, it's for business within your community.
Pro tem speaks with great passion. Each and every member will have to make that decision. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? We got one more. All senators voted. We got a thumbs up. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the adoption of amendment number 1, the yeas are 23, the nays are 28, and the amendment is lost. We'll now take up the measure. The question now is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the pro tem rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true the senator from the third had his green button mashed and at the last moment voted no? Or was it the other way around? Had his red button pressed and at the last instant.
I just assumed each and every senator kept their eyes on their own machine. Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 42, the nays are 9. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. For what purpose does the majority leader rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Wednesday, 24 June 2020.
Mr. Secretary, are there any announcements?
No, sir. Rules will meet upon adjournment. That completes
Rules
the
will
order.
meet upon adjournment. Any senators have an announcement? No senators have announcements. The majority leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Wednesday, June 24th, 2020 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it, and the Senate stands adjourned. Great work today. Thank you.